Okay, Airport 75, directed by Jack Smythe. He's actually from Minneapolis. He grew up in Minneapolis, went to school. One of his best friends was Peter Graves.
Okay, there
And
you go.
they went to high school together and actually went to college at the University of Minnesota together. And we all know Peter Graves is in Airplane.
That's true, yeah.
So that's another little trinket, that connection. And the first one was filmed in Minneapolis.
Minnesota. We know air disaster films.
So, when a movie does so good, not just do a sequel, but just kind of recycle the story. And
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is this film was released 5 years later, so we had all the films we talked about in in our month of disaster films have come out now at this point.
Yeah.
This is kind of branching out and seeing how do we improve upon that, and we're going to decide today on Kyle and Nick on Film whether or not Airport 1975 is the exact same as the first movie or something different. So join us. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and of course, when something formula works and it looks like other people are doing it and it working even better, you want to step up and do one more even better. You want to, it's like, well, we'll show you, and that's how you get Airport 75. And since it's been a success, you want to do it again.
Yep. I mean, it made 10 times its budget back, got a Best Picture nomination, got a win for a supporting actress. So like this film definitely did well. And guys, we talked about doing 4 episodes on disaster films, but we just had to talk this sequel. So this is our bonus disaster film, Airport 1975. They wasted Jerry Stiller. He's asleep for the whole movie. I gotta get that out of my system. I'm fine.
So one of the things is the best part of this movie is the 3 guys, the 3 drinking. Norman Fell and Jerry Stiller and Conrad. I can't remember the other guy, but the guys all they care about is just getting their next drink.
Yeah, coming back from Vegas, I knew these guys. They were on the plane with me a couple of years back. So
this is actually my personal favorite of all of them.
Okay.
This is what it is because they have so many nostalgia. If you're a fan of old movies, you appreciate even because you get Gloria Swanson, who actually just playing herself
in her first film in 22 years. Also, her last theatrical role was this film.
Yeah,
so it's
Sunset
kind of weird.
Boulevard. Yeah.
If you don't know the plot, I would argue that this film is a different film from its predecessor, at least in the fact that you have to have a different disaster and a different problem to go around. You have to solve it in a different way, and this is a very unique disaster, and it's a very unique problem
solving. Right? Yeah.
I was surprised at the ingenuity in the storytelling for this film. I'm not sure if it's all 100% accurate. That might be my biggest problem with it. No. I'm not sure if it's accurate whatsoever. I couldn't do the math on that, but it follows a 747, which basically collides with a passenger plane.
Flown by Dana Andrews, very famous, one of my favorite noir actors.
Yeah, and so the film, they collide, and now this plane has ended up pilotless. And so we get Karen Black as Nancy, who
the collision sucked out a pilot. Yeah, that's the best part.
And oh man, it's so fake. Stuff.
I know,
but Karen Black is basically forced to kind of take control and get guided by Charlton Heston's Alan, to make sure that they can get this plane back on track and get it back down to the ground. This is basically the Airplane inspiration. This is definitely the cookie cutter for it.
So we talked about we have to have a formula. Well, you have to have a flight stewardess that's in a relationship with a married man, and it's Charlton Heston and Karen Black. And we all love Karen Black. We all grew up with in the 70s and 80s of Karen Black doing all these disaster horror movies, and she does phenomenal.
Yeah. I think it's a people criticized her at the time because they said that she was very much like that distressed woman, always screaming, getting terrified. And she does so much more than I could have. If I was in her position, I could not have sat down in that pilot's chair and done the work that she did. So I would fight you if you said that Karen Black was just kind of like the scared woman character. I don't think that's the case. There are female characters who are kind of like the oh my god, what are we gonna do? But Karen Black's character is not one of them. I would argue that.
So you talk about a lot of the formula is still here. You bring a lot of people from the old Hollywood into here, and not only do they have Gloria Swanson, but they're going to hit you another Myrna Loy, who did a lot of the movies of the Thin Man series. William Powell, with their rich fist of socialites that just for fun solve murder mysteries that have a drinking problem. Which is, if you watch enough Thin Man series, that they all drink. And it's not very hard to get Myrna Loy to drink, which is kind of the funny, because she goes to the bar and she's going to order a stiff drink, and they're all like surprised. Which, if you are very acclimated to old Hollywood, you're gonna laugh at that. Like, you know what that is? Well, I'm an experienced drinker. That's our whole trope. Of course, you got new, which is Linda Blair.
Yeah, Linda Blair.
She doesn't have to do very much. All she just has to do is
I was surprised to see her in this movie because again, I didn't know how closely this one was going to mirror the airplane spoof.
This one actually closes.
Getting that right in there, and we even get that shot with the doctor. I don't think he was from the Mayo Clinic in this version, but like that shot where the doctor was calling saying she needs to be able to get there in a certain amount of time is lifted 100% for airplane.
That's why it makes it funny.
Same shot.
No, you watch it now and you're like, that's funny.
Yeah, so I was really happy to see that. I like the Linda Blair character in the film because she seems to me like she's the one who's most in danger, because even if the plane flight goes well, she's still in danger, like no matter what happens. And so I was surprised to see her in the movie, and I think she kind of holds her own as the kind of the stronger character between her and her mother in the film as well. And I think we get what Helen Reddy is a nun. She's a very
folk singer from the late 60s. She just passed away a couple months ago.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. But she plays the nun, and you got the very famous trope of her singing the guitar and singing nun classic. So we have to continue on. Sid Caesar's in this.
Oh man, Sid Caesar.
He plays kind of a lonely arts guy.
And then I love that he's in the movie and he's on the plane because he wants to see the movie that he's in, and like they never even get to the shot. And it's like that's again like that level where the predecessor of this film, Airport 70, did kind of like with that level of seriousness to comedy ratio where it's got to line it up there. I think this one dips more towards the serious, but it's moments like that where like I took like a moment of joy out of it as well. And he's kind of like, man, you just kind of wish Sid Caesar had sat down next to Norman Fallon and Jerry Stiller and had some drinks with those guys, because I think they would have gotten along well.
I just love that part. The bar's closed. Well, why is the bar closed?
Yeah, they're just losing their mind because the flight hasn't gotten off yet. But.
And of course, a lot of other people that got famous in television are so like Susan Clark, who played the mom in Webster, and you have Eric Estrada, who eventually he's the
Estrada. I forgot
from
about
Chips.
him. Yeah.
So you got a lot of people who eventually get their bearings being on television. One of the minuses in the movie, there is a lot of sexist jokes that are just not going to fly anymore.
Yep. Oh, nice pun there with the fly. But yeah, that's true. The film is a little bit, it feels more dated than 70, I think. I think 70 feels like a nostalgic swing that you can reach out and grab.
Right.
This one feels a little bit more like Earthquake, where like some of the stuff in it is just kind of like, I don't know if that's okay to say.
And it starts right away with the pilot like, look at that babe, I hope she's
out.
God, it's like
so much like male gazing upon young mobiles, like,
or even the people in the cockpit, the pilots treat the stewardess like, I want my coffee sweet like you, baby. It's just,
man, they were one like tush spank away from all getting fired like immediately. and
then Norman Fell doing that one racist joke.
Oh yeah,
it's just hard. It's not gonna fly.
It's anymore. That film. Yeah, it's just film has aged on this one just a lot more. Thankfully, though, there is one element that hasn't aged, even if everything else has, and that is the return of George Kennedy, Joe Petroni. Again, like I mentioned this when we talked Airport 70. I didn't realize he was in all of these movies. So because in my head, I thought it was kind of like an anthology series, and in a way, it kind of is. But I like that there's at least one element that carries through from film to film, and it's George Kennedy. And I think if you're going to have a actor who can play that level of cheese with the level of serious, get that level of like fun jokes with yelling, George Kennedy is great. And I'm so happy because my experiences with Kennedy are pretty much Naked Gun and Creepshow 2. He played like this angry old man who had like a cigar store Indian. It's just kind of like, it's just like a weird kind of a tale for him, but like seeing him in this movie, I was so happy.
Right, he's never going to be like a lead. He's going to be the supporting. He's going to provide. He's going to amp it up, right?
Yep, and I'm assuming.
But he plays the same character.
They replaced the actress who plays his wife, because apparently the woman he was making out with in the first movie wasn't available. But I'm assuming it's the same character at least, because he has a son.
Right? The other person I want to mention is Larry Sorkin's in this, and Larry Sorkin from the '60s, and he got very famous. He would play a lot of supporting roles in the late '70s. But here he just has one little snippet of being a news reporter handing the microphone. Now, if you didn't know about Larry Sorkin, simple, just Google him up. But actually, in the late 70s, he would do this TV show called Ghostbusters. Yep. Where he had like a talking monkey.
I would say it was a monkey thing. I don't remember exactly all the details. It wasn't normal.
No, and they'd go around hunting for ghosts.
Yep.
And they I got to actually meet Larry Stark, and the first thing he did when he came out, it was like a theater, like a lecture hall, and he came out and he's like, I'm the original Ghostbuster, and you damn well know I sued the pants on him, and I got a lot of money for because the next movie was Ghostbusters. So.
I wonder if his estate is still making money
I probably
off of this new film that's coming out this year. That's usually how it works, is like they just can keep taking and taking during that kind of stuff, so...
It's a fun little nugget to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Heston in this film. There was a couple different reports about how this was working, but at the very least, it was 15 hours separating the filming of Earthquake from the filming of Airport 1975. Some people even claim the two films were filming side by side and were actually sharing him.
I remember that. It's a little bit of overacting.
Yep. Yeah. Because there was it's weird. The film was called Airport 1975. It actually came out in 1974. So it's like car models. They release the new year this year. So
that's and the same cinematographer, Philip Lathrop.
Oh yeah.
Did for Earthquake, and he did for Airport 75. Yeah, so there's a lot of
2 actors and a cinematographer both coming over from Earthquake, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So yeah, they kind of had this kinship, and they also have the same kind of problems. So it kind of makes sense that they really placed it at the right time. It's weird that we didn't see an Airport 75 Towering Inferno and Earthquake triple feature, but they had to go with the Shake and Bake feature for those other 2 films. But yeah, Heston in this film, I think he's more likable in this movie than he is in Earthquake, because it's less like over the head about how much of a bad like spouse or partner he is in this movie. He still isn't particularly great. Like he won't give Karen Black the time of day to discuss the relationship. But I found him more believable in this, and he's kind of that directing traffic kind of a character again, where he's not really involved in the main action, at least not at the beginning. But the way that he inserts himself into the plot as problems begin to like solve themselves is kind of interesting. So
he's almost like the inspiration for the Robert Stack in Airplane.
Oh,
they never listen to me, and all that, and all these stuff, and getting up to code, they never listen to me, and all that.
Yeah, so I was very into Heston in this movie. He kind of had that Planet of the Apes vibe returned, where it wasn't, he was more likable in this film, not entirely, but enough where I can root for him.
Oh, right. It's wonderful to watch this. This is my kind of 3rd time seeing it, but there's no screening. You could just walk into an airport.
Yep.
Nobody's gonna check your bags. You can just go wherever you want. There's no like metal detectors. It's kind of nice and flowing. It's just kind of weird to see it in a movie nowadays.
I think it was the first one actually had a similar problem where Maureen Stapleton's character was like, I'm looking for my husband. Like, oh, just go down there to like where the plane is.
Everything's all access, right?
Yeah, different times, I tell you.
But I do like the beginning because there's a lot of hard tracking shots because you see him come into the airport, then you turn, and you gotta. Well, she does.
Yep.
Karen Black does, and then she's got to wait, and then you got to bring in the truck. So there's a lot of timing and make it smooth that you can see him out the window. So that's a lot of technical stuff that you got to rehearse that for quite a bit. But it works in the movie.
It does, and overall, just you mentioned the pacing at the beginning. The pacing of this movie, I think, is stellar. It's a moving and grooving.
It's like an action.
It does not stop moving. And as problems come up and as they are solved, new ones arise, but it's never out of reach. Like the hope is never lost in the film, which is a very like difficult thing to do when you've got a hole in your plane.
And you're on autopilot.
Yeah. So I was blown away by how different this film made me feel, and I really like that. I admire that because I had assumed that these were just the same movie over and over again, but I think
no, this is not. We talk about Airport. The original one is a little soapy. Could fit some of the dialogue. Could fit for Days of Our Lives. Mm-hmm. Here, this kind of fit for a perfect summer blockbuster of the 80s and 90s. Yeah. Yeah.
So overall, like when it comes down to it, I've really enjoyed like both of these movies. I think I still like the first one more actually. I kind of appreciate the soapy quality of it, where it knows its tone all the way through. Whereas this one goes a little bit more back and forth on the comedy drama part, and I just can't get over wasting Jerry Stiller. But but overall, I like this movie quite a bit because it is a different film to me than the first one. But it has that darker energy to it. It's a way darker movie, and again, like I feel like
shot darker.
Yeah, I feel like just in general, it just looks different too, and I kind of do appreciate that though. I don't want these because imagine this nowadays. Imagine watching all 4 of these movies back to back. If they were the same movie with the same like person shooting them and the same actors, it would just be awful. It'd be like that Die Hard 2 thing where like they keep mentioning like, can't believe this is happening again. Like it would be awful to recycle this film over and over. So I really admire the fact that this one takes a different approach comes at it a completely different way. It wasn't as successful in terms of like, recognition. The film didn't get great reviews, but I think it was still almost as strong as the original.
And I appreciate because a lot of I watch a lot of the old movies, so you're very familiar with Gloria Swanson, you're very familiar with Myrna Loy, and Sid Caesar had his own TV show in the '50s, so it's a lot of the old stuff coming in. But yeah, this is one of out of all of them, this is my favorite one. But the sexist jokes and the racist jokes, it takes you way out of it. But you have to bring something back, which is, of course, Edith had doing the costuming.
Yep.
She didn't get nominated for this one, did she?
No, she did not.
No, but it doesn't really stand out. Here we're getting really 70s with the costuming, where you can say Airport's a little more 60s.
Yeah, coming off of that. And everything's felt cleaner. It felt cleaner in Airport 70 than it did in 75. And 75's fashion sense is notable for being so drastically different than the 60s, in that it was not afraid to really vamp it up. And it doesn't feel overvamped in the movie.
Of course, one of the formulas of doing disaster movies, you have to have the one kid who knows what's going on and is smarter than all the adults.
Yep.
Which is Susan Clark's. I think it's Susan Clark's little boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, of course, his dad being Joe. Like, he's got a dad in the business. He's kind of involved in that way. And I think he's a better kid than the kid that they had in 70, who was that annoying one who was like ruining the whole story. When he's like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
So he's a better kid. I'm not ranking kids in terms of their disaster quality, but but this one, it's nice to. That's what I appreciate too, is that we take an in with Joe Petroni's character. He's our link to this film if we saw the first one. And so being able to know that like he has a wife and kid on this plane, that adds an extra level of tension to him. Whereas, especially when you look back on Airport 70, he has a moment where like the plane has the hole in it in Airport 70. And he's like, well, they're just going to blow up and burst into flames. Like, while he's sitting in the room knowing he's not in danger. Like, he's a very cold character in that first movie. This one adds an extra layer of humanity to him.
One of the funny thing is a lot of this, when they show the plane actually landing, there is no hole in the cockpit.
That's
like,
true.
There's like a lot of like, well, there's supposed to be a hole. Well, how did he write it? So it's a lot of
reasons.
Yeah.
It's about as well explained as Palpatine.
Right. So it's a lot of like, well, I thought there was a hole in the airplane. Yeah, it's one of those that kind of takes you out of the movie. It's funny.
Yeah, I feel like, I guess
I'm not gonna nitpick, but it is fun to notice that kind of. Yeah.
Well, and no, it's a fair argument though. If it takes you out of the film, the noticing of it, that's tough, because as the older a film gets, the more convincing it almost has to be.
Yeah.
Because the age of it will take you out. And that's why just looking back at some of my old favorites, like I really love the original Universal Monsters. Like the original Frankenstein has a perfect tone and nothing takes you out of the movie. Ghost of Frankenstein does take you out of the movie because he talks a bunch and he has, Bela Lugosi's voice. So like, it's a certain level of like, you have to be able to believe in it more as the film ages, because if you don't, you can't get into it and really like plant yourself. And that's a true argument then too. So yeah, it's tough that that's the way that it is with the missing cockpit hole, because I guess you could have just shot the film from the other side more.
They tried to,
just shoot the plane from one side.
They tried to, like, here's the plane landing and like, oh, focus on this side.
Yeah, and like really just try to draw away, I guess, the problem, because it would be tough to do that effect in 75.
And you would freeze. You'd be up in the air with it. No, you would freeze.
Yeah, so you've seen this movie 3 times now. Yeah. Have you checked the accuracy? Is that even? I feel dumb for asking this, but is that even possible with the hole in the cockpit thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think
that would maybe be the one thing. It was like.
It's just movie fun. I don't think you can put then fly somebody back in it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that thing. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let this happen. Like it kind of reached a James Bond level, and again, like the believability was still there for me because I bought into the world that was a little soapy with the first film, and so the believability never really left. But it is crazier than the first movie.
Yes. So, have you seen the sequel? Kind of the fun. It's my personal favorite out of all of them. Airport 75, made in 74.
Yep. Just because why not? So definitely, I think we both definitely recommend the movie. Nick likes it a little bit more than the first. I like it a little bit less than the first, but we both think it's worthwhile. Yeah.
Not the sexist, racist joke, though.
But we want to know your thoughts on it as well. Don't forget to comment down below with your thoughts on Airport 1975. Do you think it's better than the first film?
Probably not.
Or is the third or fourth film your favorite? I'd like to know. Let us know down in the comment section down below. You can also like this video, which helps us out a ton, and you can subscribe, which helps out you a ton, because then you don't have to go looking for our new episodes when they drop. They come hand-delivered right to you.
We're giving the power to you. So if you want us to continue on with the airport series, we do have them back there in the storage. If you want us to watch and critique it, let us know.
Because I'm going to have to watch them anyway because I watch everything. So I might as well get your input on those as well. So don't forget to do that. You can also join the Patreon, patreon.com/Kyle.
That's another way to tell us what to do.
Where you can tell us what kind of themes you want us to do. Did you enjoy the disaster movie theme that we had for this month? I know I did. Let us know in that area and help us out. You can help us for as low as $1 a month. That just keeps independent content creators like us going.
And you can tell us what to do.
Yeah, which is always great because I tell him what to do. He tells me what to do. We both enjoy that.
Yeah, part of the group tell us what did you do. Yeah. So it's a great. It's a fun little disaster. It didn't really go away. It came back in the 90s.
Yeah, it came back in a different way, I think, in the 90s, where like everything was a mega version. It was like a mega volcano,
Dante's
or like
Peak
aliens landing, or like all life being obliterated on Earth with Armageddon. So like disaster movies just kind of it got amped up. Like it just kind of.
That's what happens when you got Michael Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, everything's just going to be amped up.
Disaster movies and Bayhem. Maybe that'll be a good topic. Maybe join us on Patreon and let us know that you want to watch Michael Bay movies. But anyway, guys, that's all the time we have. You can find my film reviews on GoFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, a podcast where you can find us Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts on you local filmmakers from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis area.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We're going to land this bird.